was completely different. But speaking of ban phase,
let's take a look at the map ban phase, which is a little bit different than an operator ban phase, but just as important.
yeah, well, let's see which maps here are going to be removed. So of course, we start off with a 7-map pool. We narrow it down to 5 because each one of these teams has played a different map in the previous day. So there you go, Clubhouse and Coastline will be removed, which is listed Bank, Border, Consulate, Oregon, and Villa. Consulate banned out first by Pain Gaming. Immortals will go for Border, Villa later, and Oregon Bank. Oregon removed, which means we get to see Bank, a staple Latin American map. It's been spreading more and more to especially Europe.
Yeah.
In here, and Bank is a great map to see these two play styles going head-to-head on it.
Yeah, Bank's a really fun map, and we were talking about this earlier. Was it allows for certain operators who usually you wouldn't see playing flexible roles, like maybe roaming or just off-site. It allows for them to do that, and the operators we're thinking of, or I'm thinking of here, are, for example, 3 armors with ACOGs. You know, oh, people always laugh, haha, you know, Maestro roam, Doc roam, that sort of stuff, and
so tough.
And it actually does happen a lot, especially from Latin America. They really do like to make what you would typically consider an anchor into a roamer, and Bank is one of the best maps for you to do just that.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of it in Europe, especially. In North America, it depends on the map. Bank, usually, if you'll see, like Rook and Doc, that will be played mostly in CEO, whereas with Europe, if you play a map like Clubhouse, and you're defending cash, or you'll oftentimes see a Maestro that's playing on the other side of the map is trying to contest. This is something that IDK especially like to do a lot with Leon, and I think it's a pretty good usage of the operators. The ACOG itself definitely changes a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at the community vote. Who's going to win? Is it going to be a draw? Let's find out what you said.
Draw.
18% draw, so that's actually a pretty high draw percentage. Pain Gaming at 27 to win, and Immortals at 5, and that makes a lot of sense considering the standings right now. Immortals, of course, in 3rd place, Pain Gaming in 6th.
Yeah, it really comes down to the map. When you have teams that are theoretically close to one another, the biggest divider will be the map, and after that, it's the operator bans. We talked about the coaches. If the coaches definitely help out in picking out specific operators that are staples of certain players on you know, the opponents, that can definitely shut them down. And it'll take a few rounds for them to adapt to it, and then maybe they will be able to find something. By that point, it might have taken a bit too long, and they lose out in the momentum that they could have gained from everything.
Yeah. And coaches are the unsung heroes of Rainbow Six Pro League. I think if I would actually honestly say that in some cases, coaches are one of the most important parts of a team. Especially, you know, that's always a point of reference, but Shazzy Daz from Penta, you know, in Europe, probably one of the biggest parts of that team.
Yeah, he's got Feral Jackal as well to help him out. So
yeah,
it's like
that's
extra help. Feral used to coach IDK, then he moved on to Penta, and now Helby, actually, our Canadian friend, is now coaching IDK, which is very interesting. I don't know if we're going to see him in Paris, but that'll be definitely...
It'd be cool to see him in Paris. I mean, it's always nice to get to meet more community members. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen Helby.
Yeah, we saw him at 6 Invitational.
I want to say I saw him at something in Montreal I did a while back. And it was something else in Montreal a while back. But
sometimes we go to Montreal for fun.
Yeah. But no, yeah, Helby's a really cool guy, and I'm sure he's doing great as a coach. But all that said, that's just, you know, we're here in a match right now. We're getting set up here for Pain Immortals on Bank.
And that's the thing. You talked about the defense game with the 3 armors.
Right.
I want to mention an operator that I've been kind of going back to a lot more nowadays, because I usually harped on about Mira on the defense. Now I'm going to talk about Jackal, because Jackal offers so much, usually. We've seen him a lot of play in Clubhouse, especially at offline events, from Canadians, especially when you play on that map. However, Bank is definitely an extremely strong map for him, because if you know that your opponents will favor that roam game, no matter which operator they're running on that role, Jackal will definitely be a very, very good op to combo with a Dokkaebi and Lion. And that's the thing. We've seen a lot of bans as well for Dokkaebi and Lion, and I wonder if none of them are banned, we'll even see Jackal being brought out.
I think it's likely we'll have a couple rounds of Jackal, assuming he's not banned as well. I don't think he's gonna be banned. Although it is possible. I want to say I've seen Jackal banned before on Bank specifically, because it is such a Jackal-heavy map. He's got a lot going for him. Like you said, you know, you've got the soft destruction, you've got the smokes, you've got the great gun, you've got the ability to really flush out those roamers. And even, despite how good he is as an operator, I mean, we're even, I think in the mid-season reinforcement, or mid-season patch notes, on the, if you check it out, it's on the subreddit, he's getting a buff soon. So, for detection range from 5 meters to 8.
Which means you'll be able to detect from top floor down. I can imagine, like, imagine if you come in through trading, you open up the hatch, and then you look down into open area. You can scan footprints that are passing by. I mean, there's some teams that already do that. You can even use it from below. If you remember when Villa, the first play day of Villa, when it was North America Noble versus C9, Fox played that Jackal, and he was even able to do something that you rarely see, which is if you get a specific angle on with your shotgun on a top floor, and you blow out the floorboard, there's still parts of it where you still have a footprint being rendered, even though it's not a complete floor, and you can use that to detect. So not only can you do it from above down, but also from down up.
Yeah, I remember that actually. It was really interesting to see, and we'll see what happens on Bank. Something like that could potentially shine out. I mean, we're only theorizing that we're going to see Jackal play, but it's very likely. As we load into Bank, finally, Pain Gaming on attack, Immortals on defense, and yeah, this is a Pain Gaming. They're going to start trying to crawl their way back into the standings. They're currently pretty low down there at 6, and Immortals, on the other hand, trying to get a little bit higher up.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Immortals have shown a pretty strong lineup. They definitely want to get ahead of FaZe Clan, who's number 2, and there you go, Lion. First operator banned by Immortals. So this signals more of a Jackal-Dokkaebi combo to deal with any roamers.
Yeah.
But now this is up to Pain Gaming, who'll get that second attacker ban and the first defensive ban. And
there you go, it's a blitz.
Okay. It seems like this is a conversation I had in Valencia with Julio. He's like, yeah, I mean, IDK are great. The only reason we beat them at the end with Oregon is because we weren't shy to play the blitz, and we kind of outdid them in that part. And he said a couple more words about Blitz as an operator himself. So
yeah, I remember that conversation. I think you told me about it.
Yep.
And, Blitz is a really powerful operator, and it allows you to really shove out the enemy in any position. And we were actually seeing that yesterday, I want to say, but it wasn't Blitz, it was Montaigne, and when it was on Clubhouse. I don't know if you remember that, but it was really interesting to see how those shields are used. It's just something you cannot negotiate with. Now, Echo, the first defensive ban, and are you surprised by that? Because
not at all.
No, not at all.
At this point, Echo was already pretty strong before. You give him a second yokai, yeah, sure, you have a rework, but that makes him extremely powerful.
Yeah, he is right now really powerful.
What? This is interesting. Actually, okay, so this reminds me of something. Because I used to cast these teams once they actually played Caveira on Bank. And, we'll roll back to our beautiful faces before we head back into... He's having an aneurysm, by the way. But this is the thing. Latin America used to play a ton of Cav in the stairs. Now something that we would see if the defenders are playing downstairs in server, what they used to do is put a shield and have the Cav hold the stairs on her own with a spas.
Yeah.
And that was a strong thing. However, once she leaves that position, she's not really viable at all. Now, Ella's replaced that for a lot of teams in EU, especially Mocket with Panics loving that strategy. But it's Cav. There has to be some specific ban happening here we don't know about.
Yeah, there's definitely something going behind the scenes. Either that or it was a wasted ban.
Jinkies, that for sure.
No, it was either a wasted ban or Immortals knows something about Pain that we don't. And
it's possible.
It's very possible. I mean, it's even probable. But because I don't see them as a team that's likely to waste a ban like that. But yeah, Ella is a more versatile operator and used for the same exact role that Cav is. I hear you screaming at me. Ella can't detect people through walls, interrogation. See, the reason Cav doesn't get used in Pro League is very specific. You very rarely are allowed to get an interrogation with Cav.
Yeah.
If there's a team that sticks one of their members out on his own and doesn't have anyone in a position to either kill that downed player or kill the Cav who's trying to interrogate the player, then that team is throwing. Straight up. So that's why Cav doesn't get played. And whenever you do see an interrogation, it's at the fault of the attackers.
How many times have you actually seen interrogations in Pro League?
I know it's happened. I failed to recollect the exact moment when it did, though. It's happened a couple times for sure.
That aside, Cav obviously isn't available here, we'll remind you, but still, it's kind of mind-boggling because it's not something you would usually see. The latest time I remember we saw a Cav actually being put to use was in Season 7 by Mouse Sports on Cafe. Great play back then. I think Vertical was playing on the Cav, and it was great. He got a 3K with that pistol. Of course, the PRB-92, well, the version that Caveira uses is something that downs players with one shot for up to, like, what, 8 meters, something like that?
It's a pretty significant distance. It's basically if you're within 10 meters, you're winning that fight 9 times out of 10. You typically need to land about 2 bullets because it's doing like 90+ damage at that range.
Yeah, and beyond that 10 meters, you're basically doing nothing.
Yeah, there's a really heavy damage drop off at some point with Cav, and I theorize again that it is about 10 meters, but your lethality is that 10 meters until you switch to the SMG, which then you're not lethal at any range because it's completely worthless.
That's why you'll see teams in Latin America actually having used it with the SPAS 15.
Yeah.
Because depending on the position you put yourself in, that's definitely powerful. Now, we talk about fully automatic shotguns. There's no way around it. We have to turn back to our Italian operators that have an AA-12 with like 1 million rounds in that magazine on their AA-12.
You know what's really interesting about the AA-12? We have a pistol on those Italian operators as well that 2-shots people at like, well, the damage drop-off, it has to be bugged because the damage drop-off on that pistol was almost non-existent. Yeah. So it pretty much 2-shots anyone from most ranges. And you got that pistol, which is really powerful, very little recoil. You know, it's only got 6 bullets, but still, it's a great pistol. And people are not using the AA-12 because on Alibi, the MX4 Storm is really powerful, and the her teammate Maestro, that LMG, I mean, it's got an ACOG and it's an LMG. So while the AA-12 is great, or it's actually called something different, but it's an AA-12, it doesn't see play. It's the one time we did see it played, or the one time I remember it being played was on Border, and it was being used to open up the entire floor of Armory. And that's really what it's great for. So much ammunition, you can open up whole floors or whole walls. It gives you a lot.
It's like the meme. Slaps the shotgun. This baby can fit so many shells in it because it's
true.
It's a ton.
Yeah.
The damage. Obviously, you shoot one shot, that thing will go up to the roof.
Right. I mean, it's not for
kills. Exactly. Right. Unless you're shoving yourself into somebody. But you mentioned the Keratos, the 357 that we use. The thing is, the sight on it is not great.
Yeah.
However, the damage output is absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's like 70 damage per shot, and again, the damage drop off is pretty minimal, so you're lethal in most ranges. But yeah, what I'm interested to see is the potential for maybe having all of your typical operators that would bring shotguns to do construction just forgo all those shotguns and bring the AA-12 with a Keratos combo and maybe a Maestro and Alibi, and then put all of the construction work on that player. That way you can be more versatile with your kit. Yesterday we had a match where it was actually, I think it was BD versus BK. It was BD versus BK. And Black Dragons kept bringing the shotgun on Echo to support their smoke so that construction could be, so they could construct the site. But it meant that Echo was actually useless most of the time because they were playing a lot of long angles and he didn't have his MP5 with an ACOG. So I think that there's a mentality that isn't really being explored by teams, which is maybe putting that construction onto one operator like it used to be with Smoke way back in the day when you didn't have many other shotguns. And then allowing the rest of your operators to play more flexible, lethal roles.
Yeah, I think too many teams are getting into that SimCity mindset. I always want to mention it, you say it's about building the site, constructing it. For me, this is a StarCraft term, actually.
Yeah. You
use the term SimCity to mention how you build up your base, and it's the same thing here.
Is it like fixating too much on it?
Yeah. You know, obviously the shotguns are great. A lot of teams are still used to Mira with the ITA, and that thing can do a lot of work when it comes to remodeling the site. However, now you have the Bailiff, which is the other secondary that Maestro uses. Now, you see Mira, when she is used, depending on the map and depending on the site,
Right.
she wasn't always dumping like 15 shells from her ITA to remodel a site. A lot of times it'd be some sort of work, like for example, if it's laundry in Oregon, you'll see the ITA being used to blow out the back, you know, like the tower soft wall coming into the site from the back, from mostly at foot level.
Yeah, I know
and then the second part is right next to the Mira window that's set up in the closet, looking into laundry itself.
Yeah, you gotta get that rotation through the laundry closet.
The bailiff can do that.
Storage, yeah, and the bailiff can, but I mean, it's so tedious. Have you sat and tried to open a wall with the bailiff? It's just, and it's a 6-cylinder revolver, so it's
5. It's a 5 shooter.
Wait, okay, so it's the Karatos is a 6. The shotgun is 5, but it's either way, it's tedious. So. I mean, and yeah, okay, I hear ya. These are pro players; they can put in the time, but there's so many other things you have to do as a maestro. I mean, you got to put down your evil eyes in the right positions. You got to get everything situated. You got to get your reinforcements still, and then you have 20, 30 seconds max to use that revolver pistol to start opening things, and it does not destroy like the shotgun from Mira.
Not at all.
Remember her sidearm when it was first released?
Oh my God, no.
It was the same thing.
It was so.
You didn't destroy anything with a shot. It was just like a little, you know, maybe like a fist or 2 per shot, and you would just have to keep doing that over and over and over again.
That's the thing, because now she has a lot more spread on her shotgun.
It acts like a buck shotgun now.
Yeah, and that's why when this is another segue. That's why when we mention Jackal, we talk about the ITA so much, because depending on the map, and Bank is one of them, if you're attacking Teller's Archives, it's a great operator to get because you have an ITA. You don't need a buck.
Yeah.
And you get different types of utility outside of the grenades.
You know, Jackal in a way can be a substitute for your soft destructor. Now, it really depends on what you're trying to open.
Exactly.
Now, if you're trying to open up an entire floor, yeah, you're gonna need a sledge, you're gonna need a buck. But if you're just trying to inch your way into CEO, maybe open up, you're attacking Tyler's Archives, you just need to open up a crouch wall into CEO from Square Skylights, and then you need to open up some specific spots in the floor. You don't need to open the whole floor because you know exactly specific locations. Then yeah, you could just bring a Jackal and then fill out your other roles. You can forego the soft destructor. It's doable. It just means that you're relying a lot on that one operator.
Yeah, and yeah, that's why we've seen a big resurgence in Sledge, because he's mostly going to be that operator in the back, but also you get the SMG-11 at the same time, which means you can go for close-up fights with some minimal support behind you. You know, the grenades as well will combo with it. It's, you know, Buck, the C8, we always talk about it. It's good. Not everybody can control the recoil. For professional players, it's a lot more of an easier thing because they get used to it and play it, you know, hours upon hours every day.
Here's the thing. Even when I played Buck, you know, way back in the day, looks like we actually have the match ready for you guys. Thank you so much for waiting. But yeah, we'll be loading into Bank in just a sec. But yeah, when I played Buck way back in the day, I could get used to the recoil from his C8. It was totally doable, actually, not even that hard. The problem was, once you got used to it, if you tried to play another operator, it totally messed with you. Yeah. Like, you're going from so much recoil to almost none at all, comparatively.
Novi's sending some love the way of Yuna. Yuna te amo. This is pretty great. This is why we talk so much about the professional scene for Siege, where if you've never been to an event, you can actually go to at least the Paris Major and see how people are, you know, when they talk to one another as professional players, and it's definitely very cute, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of love in the competitive scene of Rainbow Six, whether it's in Latin America, North America, Europe. I think, you know, there's a lot of camaraderie as well. Most of these guys have known each other for a long time, since the very beginning, really. And yeah, it's on full display here. I mean, this very sincere caring about each other.
Yeah, it's a lot of love.
And it really comes down to, I mean, every time you get to go to a LAN event, everyone meets each other again, and it's always super fun. And let me tell you, Rainbow Six has some pretty rad after parties.
Yeah, I mean, in Valencia, it was a shame that...
What happened there? That was the very first Rainbow Six PC LAN event I've ever not been to.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we didn't have anything really planned, but because it was World Cup finals in Paris, but France was playing in the final, I was there. I was cheering for my French mates, but we were watching this with IDK, with a couple of people from UB, with Carrie and Stefan actually, and we also had Millennium and Mocket, and well, let's just say a couple of people took one too many rum shots.
Yeah.
That aside. Let's see what shots will be brought up on Bank, because Pain are on the attack, and their lineup, Jackal and the Dokkaebi, because Lion is banned.
So surprise, surprise on the Jackal-Dokkaebi combination. Never seen anything like this before on Bank, so we'll see how it plays out. Gathering information here is going to be GCR on the top floor looking for those footprints, trying to determine where the roamers are, and there shouldn't be any for him to see. I don't think we're having any heavy roam right now from Immortals. They're mainly focused on anchoring the site.
Yeah, FK1 just takes control of training and make sure that nobody is going up to peek the team from the stairs. We've seen a lot of players, including Novi's here, that's just setting up in case somebody wants to push through the hallway. But Pain Gaming are taking their time. Here we go. The call will come in, and this is why you bring the Dokkaebi. You can't combo with the Lion, obviously, because he is banned, but FK1 should have been able to hear this. And with the shots being fired by the Jaeger, Novi's will know where this is at, and FK1 will go down. An early kill with a second logic bomb haven't been available, but nobody really supporting the Dokkaebi in this push.
Yeah, that was a droned out, so there was the information support, but no real actual hard support, and that's really what they needed. One more person clearing the roamers to get that refrag. So Navi's is going to be allowed to delay quite a lot here, especially now that he's got his support from Staircase. That's Yuke coming up to see if he can cut down the Jackal, who's coming around this corner. The timing could be imperfect, though, as he readjusts on his angle. Though he will hit the headshot. GCR also eliminated. Navi's with a shot above him after the drop had been opened. Yuna down. Now Navi's is eating some bullets from the main lobby. And Pain Gaming have taken significant losses just trying to clear a roamer.
Yeah, and they had the manpower to do it. And this is clever play from Immortals, realizing, okay, they're going to try and push Novi's out. Let's put Yuk on the stairs just in case, and he can hold and support his teammate from the back. And now they can fall back and be very happy with what they've done early on, because now Spawns is alive. There's Revolts as well, but it's not a ton, obviously, to go through the goo mines with 13 seconds left on the clock. Yuk has set up in the back, and you see that wall is very difficult to try and breach with the hammer. 5 seconds left on the clock, and I don't see this in any way, shape, or form going the way of Pain Gaming, as Immortals are just holding angles, and they're just playing for time. They even down the sledge at the end of it. Immortals, beautiful reactive round on the defense.
Yeah, so just at the end there, Pain Gaming saving their ops. It's definitely a smart call. They're going to need that in the next round. And Immortals, on the other hand, just playing that clock. Really, that's how you need to do it. And actually reminds me of how they played yesterday. It was something in particular that they were really good at against T1 on Coastline. They were just stalling a lot, and it worked out great for them. So we'll see if they're able to continue that trend moving forward. It's likely to put Pain in a really bad position on their attacks, where they're going to be forced to manage their time a lot better.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get over that Caveira ban.
Yeah, I don't really get it. I mean, there's, again, like we said, there's got to be a reason why Immortals banned Cav. I can't fathom what it is.
I'm curious. I want to ask. I really want to ask them and be like,
sure we will.
Why?
Yeah, at some point we're probably going to be like, hey guys, so about that Cav ban.
Yeah.
What's up with that? I think that's probably the first Cav ban in the season too.
That's very possible, actually.
Yeah. I don't see it as likely anyone else has banned Cav yet. I mean, we like to skirt around the topic usually, but she's not a good operator for Pro League.
Yeah, in professional play, definitely not. If you're playing, you know, in your own games, ranked or casuals or whatever back home, yeah, she can do a lot of damage.
Really powerful, actually.
But the communication play in Pro League definitely makes it a lot more difficult to play around Caveira and her utility, because her silent step ability is great theoretically, but doesn't really do a ton when you're watching angles in Pro League.
And like I said, in Pro League, if someone's getting interrogated, then the attackers made a huge mistake.
They kind of deserve it.
Yeah, they do deserve it. Exactly. That's a good way to put it.
All right, well, the buck will be played again as this, well, finally put in on the board here. For Pain, we were talking about Jackal. Well, he's not going to be here anymore. Didn't really do too much in the previous round.
That's true.
Yuna's bringing the buck. They'll be playing for CEO. It's a standard take from Pain Gaming. This is something that Latin America has been doing, and really every region's been doing for ages now.
I really like that they've actually rotated off the Jackal. Typically, I would say, I mean, you're kind of hedging your bet. You're not really hedging your bets. You're doing the opposite. You're taking a bit of a risk, and in this case, it's actually a good risk as FK gets Navi's. Navi's going for a run out there, ill-advised, and he will lose out to the other operator with the SMG-12. But yeah, no, as I was saying, not bringing the Jackal makes sense considering there weren't many roamers last round. However, the site is rotated, and thus the playstyle for Immortals has as well. There are now roamers to hunt.
Yeah, and very much direct roamers compared to our previous round. But here, the Vigil, of course, dying on the outside means that now the phone is on the floor. It's going to be an easy hack for FK1, as now he can use those black eyes and, of course, the Maestro Evil Eyes to get information that is so valuable for the defense. A reactive defense is what Immortals have set here. Unfortunately, it will be Cyber, the Valkyrie's second one off the board. And this is very different from Pain Gaming than what we saw in the first round.
Yeah, no, they're very much more aggressive. You can see even this pre-placed C4 that will detonate and not see any result. Interesting miscommunication there. Had to have been one of the dead players on Immortals using a Valkyrie cam just above to call out that detonation, but it was, again, poorly timed. Spawns will get Yuke, so the Mira, after detonating that C4, eliminated through the sledge hole that Spawns opened himself. Diogo with his own SMG-11, though, trying to fight back through these holes that are being opened right above him. Oh, wow! He's going to catch a nade! Spawns, what a play! He's been wreaking havoc from this vertical standpoint.
That's what you get for running a long barrel on an SMG-11. And Yuna turning around, coming in for the kill on one. Last man alive.
Okay, I have to tell you right now,
what?
From experience, coming down those stairs and challenging someone in archives, you as the person coming down the stairs are at a huge disadvantage. Because
very ballsy.
Yeah, your feet are popping out and the enemy can see you long before you can see them. The fact that one lost that fight to Yuna blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, at the end, it was a 5v1. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot that could have been done by the last alive, the Maestro.
Well, of course not.
So
but
because of the amount of angles, but yeah, normally if you go down that stairs trying to challenge the archives, you're really gonna have a bad time. It's unless you have full confidence that you're gonna win it out and you have a huge manpower advantage, such as the case in the previous round. It's not something that we ever recommend attempting.
Yeah, and still it worked for Yuna. So well done to him. And Teller's Office Archives going to be the next defense here. So Immortals not rotating at all. They're just going to keep on trudging and see if they can make a change after that last round. I think it's a very simple rotation or adaptation that they're going to need to employ here, and that's maybe tone down the roamers a little bit, rein them in, you know, and just play a little bit more centered around the site. I mean, the first kill of the round was the run out, I believe, from Navi's on the Vigil.
Yeah, and I mean, it was him trying to get out and trying to exploit the fact that the Dokkaebi was on the outside of trading, but it didn't work out at all. And you know, he was using the K1A, which is something that is it's a great weapon, but when you know you're going to be engaging in such close range combat, a lot of players will just turn around to the SMG-12, and that usually wins it out.
Yeah, and rightfully so. The SMG-12 is one of the most... Sorry, not just the SMG-12. All of the SMG sidearms are basically the best guns in the game within 10, 15 meters.
Yeah.
Any close-range engagement, your Bearing 9, your SMG-11, your SMG-12, these are what you want at those close-range engagements. Now, why we always say those aren't really secondary weapons, they're your second primary.
Yeah, weapon. Vigil basically has two primaries at that point.
It is really ridiculous. Honestly, if he didn't have such good kit in terms of his guns alone, he probably wouldn't be played that much.
So, it's actually fairly true with the rework especially. It means that you need to be very quick on your feet.
Yeah. So, upstairs, FK1 has already worked his way into stock, and he's just laying down some fire with a cross from GCR at the top of Square Skylight, just looking to hunt these roamers in CEO. And it's not the easiest thing to pull off. There's a lot of weird angles you have to address as you come into the room. GCR going to miss some shots and land some others as he attempts to challenge that CEO desk. He will finally get the kill onto Na'Vi, so 2 rounds in a row, Navi's not really playing into it at all. Revolts will also get Cyber, so those are the roamers.
It's practically a repeat of our previous round.
Yes, indeed.
Where the roamers are the first 2 to get taken down, and now Fence has to play back onto the site as even Mira has been running out and trying to get something out of it.
There's been some really fast rounds upstairs for the attacks, and Pain are doing it all without a Jackal, and that's definitely worth noting that they're just droning so efficiently, allowing the fraggers to follow up and really show off their skill.
Yeah, and then this is Spawns here trying to play the SMG-11 from the top. Interesting enough, for the second round, we're going to see a Sludge and a Buck both combo very, very well. Of course, if you want to rely on a lot of destruction in the CEO and conference room. And the thing with this is that you have to be very quick on your feet to take control of that top floor. And yet again, Yuk will miss the Nitro Cell. Grenade thrown into Diogo. He'll take a bit of damage as well as he's going to start chucking his gas nades. The second grenade from Spawns will make sure he won't be chucking any more. 1 in the back of the archives. You'll see Spawns down, but the quick shot from Yuna, and yet again it's 1, the last man alive, and there's nobody contesting from that staircase like we saw in the first round. Little does he know though, oh there we go, GCR is gonna get shot down. Little health though, that's the Ash, not the end of the world. 20 seconds on the clock, you gotta get that punt down. 1, the flick to take Yuna out. 2 still alive, so the diffuser is set on the floor, but 1 has barely any health. Sure, you can have a lot of ammo in that set me, but yeah, ammo on its own will not really help out when you're facing against a Bearing 9 and an SMG-12. It's gonna peek right in. No, slow on the take here.
One's looking for the potential clutch.
There
Goes for the shot, doesn't hit it.
Unfortunate. Yuk will get 1. We're not expecting him to take that there at the end. Now we saw the downplay of the Sledge upstairs, was already killed at the end by the Mira because his pickup expired. But a better round from Immortals. However, we still see the same exact mistakes happening.
So this is really interesting because yesterday, I talked about this already, but yesterday Immortals against T1, Immortals had a playstyle that was oh so very slow. They won their first 3 attacks and they managed to make that work for them. And then once they got onto defense, it was just absolute dominance in their favor. But they were playing on Coastline, and in my opinion, Coastline is a site that you can anchor on just a little bit more firm. Yeah, it's exposed to a lot of the elements, so to speak, outside. You're kind of open, but that's the same thing you're encountering when you're talking about Archives Tellers. And I feel like Immortals is feeling forced out of their element here, where they're roaming on that top floor. And the reason I say that is, of course, they are hopefully unsuccessful when they go upstairs. Their roamers are absolutely shredded in the first 40-ish seconds of each of these rounds. Now, finally, they're going to be able to go back downstairs, so that's great for them.
Yeah, of course, they won the first round right here on CCTV and servers, which is why they couldn't, play it later. They had to play through 2 rounds on another site before coming back. But when it comes to pure math, obviously, you're pretty much letting things go. We're on round 4, and if you give Pain that 3rd round on the board, they're already looking pretty good for the second half of this this map.
Yeah, so they're gonna be able to go back downstairs, and that, what I was trying to say is basically this is gonna play more into their play style, how they, I think, usually meet success on defense. And I'm really excited to see if they can win this, because I gotta say, if they can't win a basement defense now, you're looking at Pain Gaming setting themselves up for a sweep. However, Immortals is also pretty formidable on attack, so we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, interesting thing is that Pain have not brought a glass. She's an operator. We talked about GCR early on, and you kind of realize with the site rotation that you're going to be going back downstairs to play against it, and we've seen how strong he can be when just holding from the servers. So I want to see what Pain have in mind here, because they're bringing technically 3 soft destructors here. if you count in the Jackal to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of count him. I mean, I wouldn't say he's classified as a soft destructor, but he's a pseudo soft destructor. You know, he has that utility that he can use to support his team. He can open up those drop downs, he can open up those walls, and he's just not as good at doing that as Buck or Sledge. But you're right, they have a lot of soft destruction overall. Yeah, and you won't really be able to put that to too much use when you're attacking downstairs. Yeah. So I question the decision. It is kind of interesting. They do at least have the Hibana, and considering the server walls are unreinforced, the lack of a thermite isn't going to hurt Pain Gaming. So yeah, it could totally work in their favor that they've brought those soft destructions. Especially with the fact that the wall into servers is not reinforced. It's just shot out by Mira to make it a lot more difficult for a Hibana or for a Thermite. And there you go. That's the soft destruction we were talking about. The ITA to allow rotations, and Revolts will save a few precious seconds by hopping on in and taking down those hatches. The most important one for me is that red hallway hatch, because Hibana can have so much control over rotations of defenders. It reminds me of Season 7, when I used to see a lot of this sort of play on Kitchen and Clubhouse, where Hibana would just hold rotations from the top angle. Yeah, there's a lot you can do from these drop downs, and the control now being established for Pain Gaming. They also have ample time to execute onto the site. Those nades flying out, not as successful as nades in prior round, but it's going to go for a second, and that will be caught by an ADS. Unfortunate, the loss there, but there's 2 smoke grenades to be used. Novice on the Jaeger holding the main stairways. Nobody speaking through there. He can hear the players above. It's a logic bomb. Should be coming out an easy kill from FK1 here, as he knows how to pre-fire that exact position. Both smoke grenades are going to get thrown out as Jackal is going for the plant. And it's a very ballsy position, but one getting the kill on Yuna. Yuk with the C4 on GCR. And he'll deny the diffuser plant as the Yoga with one more. Very good use of utility here from the defense as Revolts will have to play. Gets 1 kill, gets 2, can't line up the third. No, he does, he gets 3 in a row. And now it turns at the end as defenders. With only one alive, they'll be able to clutch out the round just based on time. It took a couple seconds for the kills to be registered in the feed, but still, Immortals, brilliant use of the Maestro to gain information, to get 1 kill, and then time the C4 throw. Yeah, and that C4 throw was, like you said, all thanks to the Evil Eye, being able to see through the smokes and detect that, yes, the plant is coming down in a very odd position in the site doorway. You don't often see that. It was a nice try from Pain to whittle their way past the counter diffuse plant, but it just didn't work out in the end, and it was well read by the defenders. I am kind of surprised, to be honest, but at the same time, it is as we theorized earlier, where Immortals, they're just going to be favored on that bottom site because they're able to really get into their anchor. I want to see Immortals come out of anchoring and do well, but we have yet to see that in the last 2 days. And this is round number 5, which means this is the last round of our first half. So the last one you'll see Immortals playing on the defense. And this is where, again, they're going to need to mix things up because they've been roaming 2 players upstairs, and every single time they do that, they're met with no success. Do you think after, this is the 3rd time they play this site, 2 times were woefully unsuccessful. Why do you think they're not going for a play in CEO? Okay, so the theory here is that CEO is technically... Okay, so you typically look at, okay, your anchor role is the guy who sits on site. And he's got some hard cover, and he doesn't have to worry too much about people coming from odd angles and stuff like that. And that's what the anchor does. He waits for the information, and he plays slow. On CEO, you don't really have an opportunity to do that. Even if the bomb is in CEO, it's not really a site you can anchor effectively. Your roamers aren't necessarily that much more important, but when you're playing in the top floor of Bank, you just don't have a lot of that hard cover, rigid play style that is favored by Immortals. And using anchors or roamers, the terminology really doesn't line up with the thought process here. However, it's the best we have to kind of explain why I think Immortals is going to Archives. You just have more hard cover. You can play it slower. And I think that's that really leans into their playstyle. And I think it's probably the right decision even. As much as I would usually say rotation is probably the better choice. I'm not against Immortals going to Archives yet.
Whereas the big change here is not having the Jaeger.
Right.
They still keep the same lineup on the other operators, but we saw Jaeger here change for the Valkyrie just to get more information so they can react a bit better to their opponent's positioning. Now, Novi's is playing in Janitor. Get one kill from the Maestro below as the SMG-11 is going to get taken up. He'll drop down all the way into CCTV room. That is a brilliant rotation, which means that you can come back and fight off of that position. No, Cyber will get one as well, and that's now the Dokkaebi and the Sludge eliminated. It's GCR playing up in the hallway. He'll get the kill on Novi's.
That was a really nice snap there from GCR. Navi's has been really kind of useless in these rounds, roaming on the top floor, which is not what we expect to see from him. Yuna will get Yuke though, one onto Yuna. Cyber gets GCR on that top floor, and now the very last attacker in the very last round that Pain will be attacking is Revolts, and he'll be coming from the main lobby. Now he's got plenty of time to work with, but he's at a distinct disadvantage, and Cyber is going to be the one to finish him off. Immortals managed to win the half, winning 3 rounds of the 5.
Yeah, you heard the Maestro Evil Eye at the end. I wonder where it was set up, probably in the main lobby.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
But I want to see like where it was. There's a lot of crafty positions that you see people playing. I think I saw one where to set it up, you go to the first floor, so on CEO floor, you impact the wall, or at least you shoot the wall that you know, the soft wall looking into the hallway. You walk up on the how do you say it?
The lone office wall.
Yeah, the lone office wall, and then you put that Maestro all the way at the end. That's a very tough one to deal with, and to some extent it kind of wastes your utility because you have to turn around at the same time, and information can already be given to the defense about it to try and counter you and maybe go for runouts. It's a very tough position to deal.
Yeah, that camera especially is harder to even find in the first place. Like, I have had people watch me put that camera up before on drone, and then they'll forget it exists, or maybe they can't see it on the wall. It's just so far from the action that it does kind of blend into the wall as well, considering Evil Eyes are mostly white and the wall is almost entirely white. It kind of, yeah, it blends. It's camouflaged. Well, all that said, we're now going to go to the basement. Pain Gaming on their very first defensive round. And this is where we have to question Immortals' attack strategies and Pain's defense. So Pain struggled a lot with dealing with the Immortal anchors, but they were great at hunting down the roamers for the most part. And I'm curious to see how they're going to actually handle their defense. Are they going to do something similar to Immortals where they just get heavy on the cover, play downstairs, and wait for their opponents to come to them? Or are they going to be more aggressive? I would expect the latter.
Yeah, actually, they want to play against that reactive playstyle, but what I like from Immortals here is that they're bringing the game. And they combo that with an IQ and a Capitao. Now, this is completely different than what we saw Pain Gaming doing in their rounds on the attack, because this lineup allows you to take your time and then use the fact that you have technically 4 smokes, the extra grenades from Novi's, and of course those Candelas. And I wonder what playstyle the Ying will lend herself to playing in this time around, because there's a few ways. The way that Hungry, for example, plays on the Ying is chucking one and then running in, chucking another Candela and then running in, and then chucking a third one as he clears out an entire floor of 2 or 3 rooms. It's very different possibly here. Yoke taking a bit of damage as FK1 and GCR are playing fairly pushed up here in the open area before possibly rotating down. Yeah,
just as we theorized, Pain is going to go for a much harder roam game, and they have rotation back into A site. They're playing off that drop down. You know, once you have too much pressure on you, you can just simply go back into the A site. And some people would say that that's a little bit risky because you're opening up the site drop downs, but those drop downs always get opened. There's little reason not to proactively or do it and just give yourself that advantage in being able to contest open area and have a really good retreat.
Well, Novi's chucking in a grenade here to take down the barbed wire. Cyber holding for potential push from the stairs.
Flash out.
Flash going to get thrown in here as one. They'll open up the hatch to have line of sight into the open area office. And nobody's going to get detected. And they're like, wait, the hatches are not reinforced or opened. This is very different.
Yeah, but at the same time, Immortals have spent a lot of, well, time clearing these roamers. They've established control over cafeteria. They don't have open area technically yet, as FK is trying to contest from small office. That opened wall, I believe from the impact earlier in the round, is going to give FK some flexibility here. GCR also supporting him with a hold of the flank, but FK and Navi's will trade. Didn't even see the shot land, but impressive nonetheless.
Yeah, and the big thing is, not only the Vigil now can stay alive and
attackers have recovered their diffuser.
Be a thorn in the flank of Immortals, but also there's 20 seconds left on the clock here, Michael. You gotta start getting on the site because Yuna has not thrown in a single one of his canisters, and there's still nitros. GCR from the side getting the kill on one to finish him off, and he spots the second one coming in. No shit. He can hear opponents as he is heard as well because of the calls that have come in. Yuna will get the kills. Revolts relaying the information, and with no time left, the defenders will take the round. The ADSs that were set up in the red hallway just weren't even needed. This is why I love seeing back-to-back play days for Latin America, but just being able to see so many different regions playing in the same week so many times, because you get to see this kind of stuff. Something that is so out of the ordinary that it's brilliant.
For me,
I don't know if it works international play, though.
Well, yeah, that's the thing we always talk about. Latin America, they have their own play style, and then when you see them play internationally, they mix things up entirely. It's so different. But in that round, the thing for me that really stood out from Pain Gaming were those roamers. And Immortals' inability to deal with the roamers. That's another thing. Their clear was so slow. And you cannot be that inefficient when you're trying to go for a basement take. You need a solid minute to actually get the execution into the site, especially if you're trying to use a smoke strategy. That's the sort of thing that takes more time to really set up properly. An extra 10 or 15 seconds to, for each operator that you're trying to rely on in terms of their sets of smoke. So you bring a Capital, you bring a Jackal, and yeah, you're going to need that, that extra 30, 40 seconds to actually get situated. But they didn't have it. Immortals didn't have it. They wasted too much time, and we'll see if that changes moving forward. They have altered their operator setup just a little bit. They've brought out Jokabi instead of a Jackal. Not necessarily a bad change. I mean, actually, I would say in this case, going against Pain's playstyle, probably going to be the right decision. However, you do need to still clear the roamers. They're not just going to disappear.
I mean, Vigil will disappear off of your camera.
In a way, yes, I suppose.
But that doesn't really fix your problem. He's still there.
Yeah, he's just not able to be seen by electronics, and that's not a huge change. At least not for Pain Gaming when they're on their roam. They have been playing in the same positions, really. It's mostly around that open area and Teller's Archives. But this time they're actually going to be defending Teller's Archives. You know, they're going to have to go to a different bomb site because they were successful on that basement. Yeah,
and Immortals doing a similar thing that we saw Pain doing in their rounds, which is, hey, things didn't really work out too well with the with the Jackal. Let's bring the Buck, and you know, on this site definitely is a great operator to have. You have so much time that the Skeleton Key will do at least something. If anything, it'll keep the defenders on their toes.
Yeah, and the soft destruction that's being implemented right now from Cyber and Diogo in that top floor are going to apply a lot of pressure to the Pain anchors. But they still have many roamers abroad who will likely be able to give that same pressure in return.
The one thing, you know, we mention this every now and then. Oh, there we go. First kill will go the way of the Buck, as we mentioned. It'll take no damage in the engagement. Now, a lot of people think, oh yeah, this also helps Yuk to throw down his Candelas into the opening. But we'll remind you, there's a second way of using Candelas. You can do that in a fuse way and get kills off of it, and at least get flashes in. Novi's and Cyber will get one each as Spawns comes in from below and will get the kill on Novi's. Turns into a 2v3, but GCR is sitting near spawns. The last alive are the two roamers. They have a rotation hole back into the archives. I'll make it a bit bigger as they both run on in. GCR gets a shot on Yuk as Yuk not fast enough on the trigger. Diogo and Cyber trying to contest this here as Diogo will get one. Last live for Pain Gaming is spawns, and Diogo with the long range of the L85 and the ACOG will win it out against the long-range pea shooter of the MPX.
So, we are seeing pretty much the same thing happen now that the sides have been swapped, but for the opposite teams. So, Pain were unable to win an attack onto the basement. Then once they rotated up to Archives, Pain managed to lock down those attacks. And we're seeing the same exact thing now for Immortals, but the difference being since Immortals started out on the good side of that, the defensive side, they are going to be up 3-4. And now we're going back to likely Archives. Yeah, indeed, Pain will lock in Archives. And the site rotation has been the same exact for both sides. And we've only seen 2 bomb sites so far.
I wonder why. I wonder what that difference, what mindset there is behind that difference between Latin America and the other regions, because Europe, North America, even to some extent APAC have had limited success on open area, but they're never afraid to go up to CEO because things are practiced. Maybe it's just our two teams that we have here that are not super comfortable going to CEO because of a different playstyle. They both, as you could clearly see, are favoring more reactive plays using 3 speeds like that Valkyrie, or 2 speeds, but like still having the Vigil that can just run around with the K1A and the SMG-12 at the same time with information support from the Valkyrie. So all that together is completely different than what teams will usually be applying to defend that CEO, which is more of, hey, let's bring Doc Rook, or within Echo, for example, even though he's not available. ACOG's very important for that sort of defense, and it's like it just doesn't fit their playstyle, and that's how we're not seeing it.
That is as maybe. I mean, the playstyle for Pain has been so much more, like you said, reactive, so much more aggressive, and it's been interesting to see it play out. It worked for them on basement, and it did not work at all for them on Archives or Tellers. The interesting, and what is this? Is this a rush from Immortals right now? Cyber already into Tellers, and he's got full site control with a double kill onto Revolts and Yuna. It'll be followed up by Navi's with Twitch pushing his way in. One will have the diffuser though, and he's far from sight. Navi's gets his own kill onto FK1, spawns with the C4 in response. So these roamers, the last 2 alive yet again for the 2nd round in a row. They'll have to retake onto their own bomb site. And they have a slightly more favorable situation this time than last. The diffuser has yet to be planted, and Spawns is going to get Diogo. There's also a down Cyber, I believe, which is going to put the defense in a good position as Cyber gets eliminated by GCR. Spawns also gets Uke. It's all one. What is a retake? It's Spawns and GCR tearing their opponents to absolute shreds.
How do I even analyze this at that point?
I know, right?
I commend the rush there from Immortals. They're like, you know what? You can keep your roamers. We're just gonna run into the site and bash into your, your anchors, and we'll go for a plant. Unfortunately, they kind of forgot about that plant part.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, and at the end, it was a beautiful retake, showing incredible skill from both the Vigil there at the end and the Valkyrie. And you know what? When you have 2 players sitting behind a desk with both angles being looked down, upon from 2 defenders with high rate of fire SMGs, you're not going to have a good time.
That was the crazy thing, though. It was just 2 people retaking the site, and there was so much delay. Where was one? Where was the diffuser? What was going on there? He had it the whole round. There was clearly a call in the spawn phase from Immortals that, hey, we're going to rush. We're going to go in through main lobby. We have an opportunity. Let's seize it. And it worked out great until, where's your support player with the diffuser?
Yeah, it suddenly
What's going on? And you know what? That's funny because
same side rotation though.
We were critiquing, I believe it was Pain actually, who has very few plants in this season. And now it's Immortals who failed to plant the diffuser. Oh boy, what an interesting match we've had so far. 4-4, and it's just a back and forth.
I want to know why we've been seeing so much preset Nitro.
I mean, it's interesting. So preset Nitros are the sort of thing where you always like to say the meta is cyclical. So something like that, you do it once or twice, and then people catch on, and they start shooting it when you place it, and then you stop doing it for a really long time. And now I guess it's just seeing a resurgence. You know, it's coming back. People will stop thinking about them so much. Maybe whatever the case. I mean, in this particular case, we have the C4 here. That's going to be for stock room, and there might be a Valkyrie cam above it. There might be a pulse underneath it. Either way, there's going to be information that is gathered from Pain Gaming that will allow for a potentially free kill. Is this another rush from the... Yes, it is. From Garage right now, Immortals pushing in aggressively, but they're going to be met with fierce resistance from Yuna already.
Yeah, it's definitely a house of pain in here, as we'll see Yuk being the first man taken out. The Zofia, well, man/woman, I guess. Zofia will be the... Did I just assume, right? Zofia will get shot down early on as Cyber, his teammate in the back, Diogo, is going to open up a hole to look down into the red hallway. Rotation still can be done by the defenders, of course, from the gold vault. It's not the end of the world. You lose a ton of utility. Now, with that Zofia out of play, and I guess we'll see Immortals rotating around, realizing that, you know, maybe we shouldn't be going in one angle when our opponents know exactly where we're coming from. Definitely the Vigil plus the information from the Pulse. Well, the Vigil plus information from the Pulse, plus, of course, the Legion, with his Goon Mines being deployed, will make things a lot more difficult for the 4 remaining attackers.
Yeah, and I'll see, after that failed rush, now they've lost a man and they've lost a lot of time. Something that people often forget about Garage is when you go into Garage, you're spending a lot of time doing that. Navi's will equalize, though, and that's very important. FK1, the Legion, not able to lay down any more traps in this round, so it's all up to what he's already placed, though 2 minutes in, that could be a lot of traps.
Yeah, Diogo moving in from the Garage as one will open up the hatches here. I think we're looking for a vault drop.
Potentially. I mean, just having the option available to you could help a lot in the late game. Spawns, loses the drop down just above him, and he will be forced out of that elevator.
He'll have to fall back into the vault entrance, at least for now, as Revolts is relaying information as we speak. He, of course, will remind you, has used his Ventro Cell to preset an open area. Has not really been able to use it for anything else. As from here, he should have a line of sight directly to top, and that's why I think they were setting up that Nitro Cell, but that aside, see Novi's running in. There is the Vigil on the side, but there's so little time left on the clock as GCR still gets 1 kill here with the SMG-12. The attackers of Immortals just have no idea how to deal with this, but quick frags will at least make things a bit easier for them. Yuna will get dropped. His last alive now is Revolts. He has no C4. He wishes he had that C4 right here, right now. He's gonna get hurt in the back as now you see Immortals just running in, cleaning house. C4 will get used. The diffuser is now set on the floor. Unfortunately, unable to spot it, and Novi's on the Ash wins out the round for Immortals. And where do we start?
Okay, so we start by saying Immortals should have lost that round.
Yeah, quick and easy.
Yeah, quick and easy. It was 15 seconds left. Most of the attackers were far from the site. It really is perplexing that Immortals was allowed to make a comeback there. And I think it has to do with Pain Gaming. Once they got down to those last 15 seconds, they locked up and they were seemingly unable to win any of the fights that then ensued. So not the best defense there. They played a good roam game. They played good delay. They stopped the initial rush, but they could not lock out the last 15 seconds.
Very, very interesting here. I talked about the House of Pain early on, but I guess Immortals are very much living up to their name. As I see, maybe we'll have a 6th pick change here from possibly the Twitch. Oh.
Well, I mean, 6 pick changes sometimes happen, sometimes don't. I like that it allows teams even sometimes just to think about what they want. So, like, for example, here, Revolts can change off Jaeger, but Jaeger's a great operator, so he could stick with it. Either way, he's not in a bad position. The Mute, I'm guessing, probably going to be brought to aid the Roamers in canceling out some information, but we'll see what the actual mentality is. Maybe he wants to lock down servers. That's another thing you can do. If you have enough mute jammers in servers, it becomes excruciatingly difficult to take that server stack.
And that's the thing. One thing that I have to commend Immortals on in winning that previous round is that even though they were down in manpower, they were still able to drone things out and get information off of where the last players from Pain Gaming were, and then, you know, proceeded to absolutely smash them at the end of it. So maybe the mute is a reaction to be like, okay,
10 seconds left.
the only way you're winning is because you're having information on top of us. Let's make sure that you have as little of that as possible, and maybe then our positioning, etc., will win out the round for us. Because here, we'll remind you, the only way to bring it back for Pain Gaming is to win this one last round and tie it and get 1 point off of it. Because already Pain Gaming's dream of going up in the board to contest against those, you know, top 4 of Immortals, FaZe, and Liquid up top already gone down. And Immortals, with 1 round of the board, they're looking for the 3 points to put in the standings.
Yeah, and they only need to get this last round. We have 2 minutes, 27 seconds left in this match, and that's it. That's all that's left to go, and it's still anyone's game as we have a full 5-on-5, and just an initial clear from Immortals. They moved their way to Square Skylight. They have gotten tellers and archives as well, but they've got to contest the roamers of FK1 and GCR inside of open area. They've already got one, though. GCR eliminated by a hole in archives wall. You can see FK trying to fight back, and he will be successful in that endeavor. Cyber taken down, the Ash no longer with us, and it's equalization for Pain Gaming, as well as further delays for Immortals. And now they have the control that they needed, and they did it much more efficiently than in rounds prior. They also have these unreinforced drop-downs, which is going to allow easy access to that vertical pressure.
There you go. Speaking of those drop-downs, one of them at least will get taken down. That is the red hole, and there we go. The mute jammers working perfectly, like a charm. And that'll make things a bit more complicated for the attackers, as they might have to run in blind or just off of previous knowledge. This is a close angle that you can use as well to cover the rotation from the garage and the hallway into the site. Zyuk is droning in. And see, the Valkyrie camera is set right above the TV in the room, and that gives them quite a bit of info, but the goo mines as well will protect their backside, as the stairs in the garage always have to watch out for them if you're on the defense.
Now, I have to say, given the position and the time, this is certainly Pain Gaming's round to lose. Immortals are the ones put in the precarious position of pushing into the basement of Bank. It can be a difficult push, and it's going to be very much more so as these gas canisters come out from the smoke. But the lifelines from Zofia in response, and the nades from Sledge, trying to get those kills, trying to get a little bit of an edge as they push eventually comes from Immortals.
Yuna throwing in his last gas canister, possibly. There we go. They have info on the Twitch as Revolts is relaying all of that. Novi's just sits back up and nobody's contesting him. And there we go. As I say that, Yuna peeks in, gets the kill, the SMG-11. That's the smoke taking out one. He has no more shotgun shells, but at least they know that Joker's going for that diffuser plant. They'll get shot down. Spawns will get one more on one as he runs into the site. And last alive is Diogo as Revolts just finds the angle, peeking in to get the final shot from the red hallway, and that is Pain Gaming to tie things up 5-5, and they'll get at least 1 point out of it. The 18% draw from the, well, prediction draw from the viewers is definitely ended up working out this time. It was closely matched. I think both teams made very similar mistakes when they were playing on really most of the sites that they were on.
Yeah, and in that last round, it was certainly Pain's round to lose, and they just did not. They managed to hold out. They played incredibly passive, really taking a note from Immortals' playbook, and it worked out great for them. Immortals were just inching their way in, looking for those typical spots where you see anchors in Red Hall, and not finding them. So an easy holdout there for Pain, as they didn't give away any bodies, and it was a very